Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world-changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, to create massive awakened impact for millions of souls around the planet, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. Hello, everybody. So glad to be here with you, everybody. Spiritual Rockstar Podcast again, and another amazing guest. Scott MacIntyre is here from American Idol. Oh my God, this is so amazing to have Scott here. I've got him on cue. He's going to be sharing about his story, incredible story, his story of, I'll tell him tell his story, but somebody's faced a lot of, I would say, challenges, right? So blindness, kidney transplants, all these things, and yet he's making such a profound difference. And that's why I wanted to have him on the show and help you to understand how that is also possible for you by utilizing your connection with God, with Source, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter, but I just want you to know the glory of the greatest and the highest is here for us. We're willing to be ablaze with that fire of God or Source, whatever you call it in your life. And that when you follow that, the greatest things happen. That's what Spiritual Rockstar is all about. We're going to be getting right into it in just one moment. Do you want to meditate and make money? Let it be simple. Let it be easy. Let it be fun. Go to yoursacredpurpose.com and get your free Meditate, Make Money meditation today. Oh my gosh, Scott, so glad to have you here today. Hello.
Thank you, Daniel. It's great to be here with you. I've been looking forward to this.
All right. And so, yeah, Scott's definitely someone, it's a big time, what I call spiritual rock star. And I'm very, very excited. So I'm sure, Scott, what's funny is I used to watch American Idol all the time. And then I like probably a lot of people, I started like after 100 seasons, like however long it's been around a long time now. Eventually, like in so many seasons, I stopped watching it so much. But I'm guessing I probably watched you, when you were on. And so it's just it is pretty cool. I'm sure you get a lot of that starstruck energy from people like, we were on American Idol, right? So it's really
you can only go so far, right? After you watch so many seasons. And it was really funny, Daniel. I used to go back and I was on season 8, if anyone's interested in that. But I try to go back and encourage the new contestants, and they always, I think it meant a lot to me to hear from past contestants when I was a contestant. And so I tried to go back, and my wife and I would go back and encourage the new people. But, what I noticed is that every year after my year, the red carpet got a little smaller and a little smaller and a little smaller. And then one year it was a blue carpet. It wasn't even a red carpet. And then eventually the red carpet was gone. And, I'm not even sure if they do the tour anymore. Point being, it's had a long, good run. So I don't blame you for not watching it anymore. But, God put me there at a really strategic time, I guess, because it was a big show. It was kind of before Netflix, it was before everyone was watching their own shows, and people used to gather around. Actually, I used to gather around the television and watch it. For me, watch is in quotes. But it was this family event. Each week you'd watch American Idol, and then all of a sudden I was on it, which was just such a blessing in my life. Very, very fun time.
Yeah. I mean, we pretty much already talked. After I do the bio, I pretty much already did it. You've been a classical pianist to American Idol alum, which we were talking about right now, and you are just a total inspiration. You were born blind, it says here, right? And then you're a kidney transplant recipient, and that you're living proof that God can take seemingly insurmountable circumstances and work them together for the good. And I'm a total huge believer in that. There's timing to everything, that there is God, higher power, whatever we want to call it, but like there's that force that's putting us where we need to be. And I do feel that the more we can listen to it and really sort of obey it, or really obey it, like to really surrender to it, that's where the grace comes. That's where the miracles comes. That's where the miracles have come for you, I believe, anyway, in part, right? Like just giving yourself to it, and to see what's possible for you. So I'd love for you to talk about, a lot of our contestants. I'm talking American Idol stuff. Our guests.
I'm still in a competition. I still feel it. No,
that's so funny. I said that. That was a little slip, but it's fun. Yeah, a lot of our guests happen to be a little more on the new age, new thought, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, we've had other guests say, "Hey, I'm total Christian," all that, and I think it's also so powerful. And so what I would love for you to talk about, maybe if you want to do this to get started, is like talking about your path of faith and how that has helped you to through all these things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Daniel. Yeah, and hopefully it's something that can be a help to those listening and watching. Right, because we all deal with suffering, and it's like, what do we do with suffering? And it's hard. I mean, I've dealt with some things in my life, the kidney transplants being one of them. I've received 2 living donor kidney transplants, and so 2 times in my life, someone has stepped in to save my life when I could not save myself. And so the blindness was kind of one thing, just kind of build in the background here. The blindness was one thing. I knew what I was dealing with. I had a chance to get used to it. In fact, I grew up with it. Life was always that way for me. I didn't have my sight and then lose it per se. But the kidney transplants, that was a surprise, to hear at 19 years old that I'm going to need a kidney transplant. I'll never forget hearing those words in the doctor's office and just feeling devastated, and so there's a lot of talk out there, even from Christians, about, tomorrow's a new day, or there's hope right around the corner, just hold on, get through this dark moment. But as I've gotten older and I've walked more of life's journey, I've realized more and more that, suffering isn't going away right now, until Christ comes back. But that, obviously, I believe God could heal my eyes. That's another discussion for another time. But, in a lot of ways, a lot of times we don't see that healing. There are healings that happen around the world today, I think, but there's a lot of evidence for that. But sometimes it doesn't happen, even when people are earnestly calling upon the name of the Lord. And so the question becomes, what's the point of suffering, right? And some people think it's random. Some people, some people do try to avoid it. We all try to avoid it. We like to be comfortable. We like to kind of keep suffering at bay. But, when you read the Bible, the Apostle Paul says some very interesting things about suffering, things that I still wrestle with. He didn't just accept them or acknowledge that God's going to use them somehow to work everything together for good. He actually said he delighted in his suffering, some of the translations say, or at very least he was content in his sufferings. And I ask myself how he could say that, and like, how, because I don't think I'm quite there yet. But there's this beautiful verse in 2 Corinthians in the Bible that says, suffering produces endurance, endurance character, and character hope. And hope does not put us to shame. And it goes on. But, I think a big key to this is realizing that with Jesus, at least, suffering at the end of the day always leads to hope. And there's an interesting connection there, a progression there. And that helps us find purpose in suffering. You had me laughing a second ago because I just got my wife Christina to rewatch Star Wars with me, and I still watch movies. I listen to them more than watch them, obviously, but it's all about the force, and you even use some language that I could probably match up right with the movie. And it's very hard to deny, isn't it, that like coincidences seem to happen, and sometimes there's just stuff that goes on. You're like, that's way too coincidental to just be an accident. And I don't think it's an accident we latch onto that kind of order in the universe, but I think what's always fascinated me is that, in the story of Jesus Christ, God makes himself known, to humanity. It's like the creator steps into his creation, which is kind of unusual. If you build something, Daniel, if you build a little miniature world, out of wood or out of, mechanical parts, you can't really, you don't always get the opportunity to, to go live in that world, even though you might want to. But that's what I believe God does in the person of Jesus Christ. It's like he steps into creation, and all these questions we have, like, what is God like? What does he want for our lives? Some of those are answered more and more the more we look at the life of Jesus. So that's helped me to kind of look at my kidney transplants and say, okay, there's a greater purpose here. And I don't know all the ins and outs of that. I don't think I will. I can't know them all in this lifetime. I'm very finite, but I can tell you that, in a lot of ways, I've seen other people encouraged as I've kind of walked through my disability and walked through my struggles. And people watch you. You may have had a similar situation. People pay attention to what you're doing, what you're saying when you are down, when you are hurting. Some people get very angry when they're hurting. Other people, you watch them and you're like, how are you not angry right now? And it gets our attention.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that for you, right? I would think like you could feel like I would think potentially anyway, like why me, right? Like
Yeah. No,
saying,
and I had a
transplants,
moment like that, like when I was 19 years old. I the moment I was talking about it, the doctor's office, I hear I'm going to need a kidney transplant. I don't know what that means as a 19-year-old. I just knew it probably meant my life was going to be very different from that day on than I thought it would be. And the next day I was angry. I was like, God, isn't blindness enough? Why kidney failure too? And I had to work through that, because I had very real questions like, are my friends gonna accept me, or is someone gonna want to marry me someday, knowing that I'm blind and my body's giving out.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, exactly. And yet, you had you're a pianist, right? I mean, I know that because I've seen the clips of you
Yeah.
whatnot, but I mean, so I guess what I'm trying to say in an awkward way a little bit here, but like, is how did you get it into that? Because I'm guessing that is part of the gifts, that's been given to you from God. That's part of the perseverance that you're demonstrating for people, right? Like, look, you've given
Yeah.
these gifts. It's may show up more spectacularly for someone like you. Like, look, it's demonstration, but we all have whatever it is that maybe you're an incredible accountant, right? It may not show up as all this pizzazz all the time on TV, but I imagine I'm sure an accountant, I'd watch how I do these books, or whatever.
Exactly. It's yeah, for me, my journey into music and into what I love to do, which is to create and make music, is one way of creating. But I think I ask this question a lot, Daniel. I ask, if I would not have been born blind, would I have been in music at all? And I don't know the answer to that, but I'm tempted to say no, because music for me, the whole world of sound was very much, it was my default that I had to go to, because I didn't have the gift of sight. And so, I just gravitated toward the world of sound. And There was an old upright piano in my house. And so at 3 years old, I would reach up and start to touch the keys, and then I would hear the sound. I wasn't distracted by the visual side of it. We're a very visual society, and I think vision is the primary way we kind of take in information, myself excluded, I guess. But you'd be surprised if you were to have someone take you out on the back of a motorcycle and you close your eyes or you put a blindfold on or something, you'll start hearing things that you that you never knew were out there, and you'll start to you don't have to do that. I'm not suggesting anything, but you'll start.
Scott told me put on the blindfold, get out or a second.
Let's do it right now. No, I'll drive you. But you'll start to hear things that you never thought were there. And I've heard people actually say that with that specific example. And it's just kind of like, for me, my ears were the way that I processed information. And so people ask me all the time, are my other senses heightened because I'm blind? Well, I don't have the greatest sense of smell in the world. That's not meant to be a joke, but it is kind of funny. But my ears and my memory were the two things that I think really helped me compensate for my lack of vision. And it was just necessity. I don't think that we automatically get better hearing when we're blind or, whatever. But for me, I had to rely on my ears like I would have relied on my eyes. And so over year after year after year, I began to be very tuned into that. And then, fast forwarding, like you were saying, music was, it was definitely a big part of my life. God is a creative God, and that's reflected in you and in me. I think we were made to create, and to cultivate the creation. And so, music is a way to do that. I mean, there's all kinds of ways we can be creative, even in accounting. But for me, that definitely helped me through some of the hard times. I remember being just, this is going to sound dramatic, but strapped to a dialysis chair, just having my blood cleaned day after day before my first kidney transplant. And it was a way to survive. It was not a great quality of life. Maybe there's someone listening to this right now who's on dialysis. In that time, I didn't have my physical strength. I couldn't travel. In fact, there was a time, Daniel, when I didn't have enough strength to sit and sing at the piano. It was too hard to push that much air through my my lungs and my vocal cords for any length of time. But I still had that part of me inside where I was able to write songs. I actually wrote some songs from my dialysis chair, and I wouldn't let go of the hope that God had a purpose for me. And we don't always get to see what that is. I could have died on dialysis. He didn't have to give me a kidney transplant and, write my story in this way. But, there are those things that we can hold on to no matter what's going on around us. Music was one of those things for me, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I've heard that before. I mean, just hearing your story from someone who has, near total blindness. I know you can see to some degree, but it's very faint, right? Like you can see, like, how is that? Like, that's even a fascinating thing to ask.
Yeah. It's kind of like looking through a little straw or a coffee straw. I cannot see you on the screen here in case you're wondering,
right?
But hopefully I'm looking near the right spot.
Okay,
but people still sit across the table from me and they're like, are you sure you're not blind? Because it looks like you're looking at me. And that always gives me a lot of confidence, because I start to doubt. I start to think, oh, maybe I'm way off. Right. But it's kind of like looking through a little straw. It's, it's not perfectly clear. It's a little blurry. It's changed a little bit over the years, but it was just so small to begin with that it wasn't really useful for getting around. I've never driven a car, as far as anyone knows. And I just, there's certain things I can't do. I couldn't play baseball growing up. I couldn't see when a girl was smiling at me. But at the same time, I do know what some things look like. If you imagine the little, like the size of your fingertip or your fingernail, or the size of a mouse cursor, that's about the size of my field of vision. And the rest of it is not black. It's not blurry. It's just like if you were to put your hand behind your head, it's simply not part of your field of vision, and it's just removed. So it doesn't look like a tunnel to me. It doesn't look claustrophobic. It's just, what I see is the fullness of what I see, even though it's a little pinhole. So, I see little things like maybe where the outline of the mountains meet the sky, or where the sidewalk meets the grass. I saw little contrasting details like that growing up. And, they don't they don't help me a ton, but for some reason I still would look at them because I would see these contrasts in the world around me. And then one day I was walking along, walking to the grocery store, or home from the grocery store, I think, and in Franklin, Tennessee, where there's a lot of beautiful grass, so I got that nice contrast with the sidewalk and the grass. And I'm walking along and I happen to look up at the sky, okay? And I just am all of a sudden overwhelmed by the expansiveness of the sky and this particular place where the sidewalk in front of me just kind of rolled away and gave way to this immense sky. And that's where I started writing the song Look Up, that it's been one of my radio singles and all that. But I thought to myself in that moment, man, I really need to look up a lot more. It sounds funny for a blind guy, but I used to look down a lot. I used to look at the little things and get all caught up in where the grass meets the sidewalk and the grid of the, those lines, and just all the stuff that was right in my face, that I forgot to look at God's creation. I forgot to use the little vision that I have. Sometimes we can't see the whole picture, but I forgot to use the little bit of vision that I have to look beyond my day-to-day, to look beyond my suffering, to look beyond my pain, and see a bigger God, see a God that was sovereign over all of it. And so I'm kind of speaking metaphorically here, but that's what happened. And so since then, I try to look up a lot more, and I just use my cane. I let that kind of tell me what's going on down below. But that was kind of a cool real life story of something just hitting me and becoming a cool song. And by the way, if if you want to look up the song, there's an exclamation point on it. My co-writer thought it was very important to put the exclamation point. So it's not just look up, it's look up exclamation point.
Cool. I know I've listened. I mean, I have gone on YouTube and all that stuff and whatnot, and listened to your music. It's great. I can't say I can pinpoint one song over another. This was a while back when I started researching it, but I was like, oh, that's real good. Whatever, all what I was listening to.
Thanks, Daniel. I appreciate that, man.
I'm not one to remember like things like that really well in general. Like people say, hey, don't you know this song or that song? I'm like, usually not, unless it's like something I'm really focused on. I'm like, I don't like I just how I am. But yeah, I mean, phenomenal, and a lot of clips online too, or a number of them anyway, of you speaking, and your presence is really powerful when you're on stage, especially too. Like you've got a powerful presence and energy you're bringing to people. To help inspire people with the messages that you're bringing. So I really appreciate what the emotion, the energy, and everything you're bringing forth. It's really helping people. Like you got the I know we were going to talk about your podcast, right? So you've got this.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that about the stage.
Yeah.
I can't see the audience, and so people have told me, they're like, Scott, you do somehow, you're the same, energy level, whether you're, in front of 10,000 people or just like 6 people in the living room. And I think I think that helps me, because I just believe in what I'm doing, and I believe in the power of music to, to really just kind of go where words alone cannot. And so, I don't care if it's 6 people or thousands of people. I try to give the same energy in my performances. I'm glad you kind of picked up on that. But yeah, one of the things, we do have a podcast called Enduring Hope, and would love people to check it out. And we're trying to do, it's very short actually, so you'll find it a little bit different. It's only 5 minutes, but Enduring Hope with Christina and Scott MacIntyre, wherever you get your podcasts. But I have to give you the backstory. So in April of 2020, which we can think back and realize that was right after the world went crazy. And April 2020, we filmed. We thought it wasn't going to happen. Maybe, I mean, people were kind of saying, "Why don't you wait till after everything?" And I'm glad we didn't wait, but we were very careful. We filmed what was our first television special, and so it was a big step in a lot of ways. But I really wanted to do something with music and this story that God's written in my life. And just, we had a guest pastor on too, and just, we kind of wove music and story together into a TV special. And you can watch it online. It's actually airing on different stations around the country each weekend, and touching, thankfully, a lot of lives. But there is a place you can watch it on my website. I think it's scottmacintyre.com/enduring hope. And it's MacIntyre's MAC. So Scott MacIntyre, MacIntyre.com/enduring hope. And we did the TV special first. And then as that was going out, we just felt like we wanted to do something a little bit deeper. So the TV special is really kind of hitting different people each week around the country, and they're, hopefully tuning in, and they're like, "Oh, it's the blind guy from American Idol." And it's cool, Daniel, because people do reach out, and I get to pray with some of them. I get to, kind of hear what they're struggling with, and then try to follow up on maybe some of the hope that they've found in the music, and just kind of sit with them in that and encourage them. But the podcast, also called Enduring Hope, is a weekly thing. And so it's really just 5 minutes of encouraging you, if you're listening, to just have faith in the midst of whatever you're going through. I know during this time, these last few years especially, even people that consider themselves Christians, or that are walking with Jesus, they the best of us have doubts, okay? And the best of us, like, we all struggle. And Jesus is a safe place for your doubts, for your questions. Hopefully they end up drawing you closer to him. But it's not like, it's not like he can't take our questions, right? And a lot of people grew up in church situations where questions were discouraged, and kind of asking those questions, or doubting, or bringing up a concern was discouraged. That's not the heart of Jesus. Even his disciples had serious doubts, but they ultimately could bring those to him and wrestle with them, and then come out stronger on the other side. So I'm just trying, my wife and I do the 5-minute podcast each week. We're really just trying to help people hold on to hope, because I know people that are, they're going through the motions. They're trying to be joyful. Their life is a song on the outside to them, but on the inside, they're struggling with depression like never before. They're struggling with anxiety. They're struggling with questions and doubts, and maybe they're struggling with suicide even, or suicidal thoughts. And so I'm just trying to meet people where they are, and Christina and I are doing that, trying to be faithful to do that once a week with the Enduring Hope podcast. And so if anyone wants to follow along with us, we're trying to keep it to 5 minutes each week, but it's been really good for me too, just to, when I listen back to it, to encourage myself during this time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. With so much going on, again, whatever all the various things may be for people, but yeah, the environment of the COVID-19 era, the political energy, seemingly the kind of maybe the top, racial things, all those issues coming up to the fore. Probably many more things than that, but like it's all kind of some of the major ones. Lots of things, lots of issues coming up to be with and to work with. So one of the things I just want to say too about all this, like first of all, like this, that's so amazing. I mean, many listeners probably come from a Christian background. Some of them may be devout Christians to this day, like you are, or in another way, than their own interpretation. But a lot more me not, be in that kind of way, at this time to my listeners in terms of what you're talking about. But one of the reasons why I love bringing people on and that have all these variety of viewpoints is because for me, and I don't mind if other people totally disagree with me. That's where I don't mind. But like for me, it's more about, we're all very honest. We really don't know the absolute truth of much of anything. So it's like, so no wonder there's so many doubts, right? But we can have faith in whatever that connection is for us, whether it's Jesus Christ, whether it's, we call it God, or even people say the universe or what have you, right? I mean, with that substance that provides for everything, right? That aspect that is providing for everything. And that's, to me, is so beautiful that you have a podcast called Enduring Hope, because that's what that is. I mean, that enduring hope is that. It's like remembering, like even something for me this week, I could be like, oh, that's it. I can't take this aspect of my life anymore or whatever, right? Like be like, oh, I can't take it anymore. And then you wake up again, like for some of myself, you just wake up right away again. Not that I ever really fell asleep, because I knew even when I was going through the emotion, I was still connected. But like, I'm like, okay, I remember the eternal source of God, or how, again, whatever words we want to use. I know that's the real thing. Everything else, my concerns or whatever about whatever's going on in my life, that's not the real thing. I mean, the real thing that's really providing substance for everything, and that there's so much that's unknown of the blessings and opportunities to be blessed and experience blessings come from that place. Everything comes from that place. And so when we're willing to allow ourselves to give ourselves to that sense of faith and hope, or what, enduring hope, then there are miracles on the way. There is a healing. Maybe it's not always a physical healing or the healing that you thought you needed or wanted, but something's on the way. And I love your story so much, and what's been happening for you so much in that too. Like when it seems like this is and I know a lot of people, you've talked about this a lot, but like, oh, this is a curse. I'm 4 foot and I'll never be taller than that, or I'm blind, or I don't have hearing, or whatever people's issues are, right? I don't have any confidence, or whatever it is. Everybody has something that they're like, this is what makes me so deficient, and I can't go, I can't deal with it sometimes. And whatever that is, there's still that enduring hope. And that's what I love, that you have a place for people to go to be able to remember that. That's amazing.
Well, thanks, Daniel. And I, when I think of that title, Enduring Hope, it's, because we threw around a lot of titles, but what I like about it is it's not just hope about tomorrow. It's not hope that you can change your past or something like that. It's not, it's actually hope for right now, because it's a hope that it's not going to, it's not going to take away. God never promises in the Bible that, that he's going to end suffering right now. He does promise he will someday. And that's a great hope, but it actually goes beyond that. And this is the thing I think some people miss, but we can have hope in our sufferings, like while we're in them, even if they don't change, because there's something deeper going on. If you believe in Jesus Christ, he's actually using them to conform you more to the image of Jesus. God's a relational God. That's why I've, going back to what I said earlier, he stepped into his creation, to reconcile creation to himself, and to bridge that gap. He wants a relationship with you and me. And it's kind of interesting to think about that in a very real sense. As we follow Jesus, it doesn't get better right away. It actually sometimes gets rougher, and we start to experience what Jesus experienced. The thing I love about following Jesus, though, even though it's hard, is, I follow a guy who he's been there. He understands my pain. He's been rejected. He's been betrayed by his closest friends. He's wrestled with the temptations of the flesh. It's not like, I'm following after a savior that doesn't understand me. He gets me. In fact, he understands me better than I ever could.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, it may not be again your thing, but like for me, I've utilized my relationship with Jesus Christ in terms of like channeling and communicating with Jesus, and speaking aloud words that I sense or imagine he's saying, even if you want to look at it that way, but like channeling that energy. And it's really beautiful for people to be able to take in that energy. I always say it's just the energy I'm picking up on. I don't know. This is literally Jesus Christ? I don't know, but I
love what you said, earlier about just, and this is why, if you're listening and you describe yourself as an atheist, which I don't know your audience too well, but it's a bold claim, because, and you said this a minute ago, Daniel, but I really believe we know so little of what is to be known. And to say that there is no God is, in essence, in a certain way, to say that you know everything, in the sense that you've eliminated every possibility of there being a God. So I think the first step is kind of never losing sight that we're pretty small. If you go and stand by the ocean, and you see what's going on there, you just close your eyes and you listen to the waves, you start to feel pretty small. At least I do. The ocean always does that to me. Everyone probably has their place, but I think it's a good thing to feel small. And like you said earlier, just to be aware that there's a lot going on out there. And when we see our finite nature, we see how small we actually are, it helps us stay humble. Going through American Idol, I've watched people change dramatically, and then I've seen other people who have stayed exactly the same. And I think the people that are down to earth, they understand how big the earth is and how small they are.
Well, that's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, you seem like the type of person that probably did not change too dramatically from the show in terms of who you foundationally are. Like in our circles, we call it the ego or whatever you want to call it. But like, yeah, the sense of like, wow, look at me now, I'm in America, I've got all these fans and all this stuff. And
yeah,
like yourself as humble, you're like, yeah, it's, God or Jesus Christ has given me these blessings to share with the world. And I'm grateful. I'm just grateful, rather than
and I hope I always, I try to be that way. I had a dream as a little kid of what it would be like someday to be on, a stage like the arenas we toured in after the television show and all that. And I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I just really, God put that in my heart. And so a lot of the decisions I made along the way, I just thought, like, is this going to move me closer to that dream or farther away? And is that really what God wants for my life, or is it something else? And I just kind of earnestly sought that and gave that over to him again and again. But it was really special to be able to to live that dream in a sense, and see people touched by music. And even all the way up to today, I used to do music as more of an art and try to, I have my favorite artists and all that, and there's some really great musical artists, and I guess I'm fairly artistic in what I do. But my point is that over the years, I've transitioned from using music just for art to using music as a vehicle for change, and music to bring about purpose. And so I've started, seeing music more as a means to an end rather than the end. And that end that I'm trying to get people to is hope, hope that is not fickle, but hope that can weather the storms of life. And so I'm excited anytime I see someone, just grab a hold of that enduring hope. It's cool.
Thank you. Oh, this is so wonderful. I'm so grateful for everything you're sharing. It's a wonderful blessing to have you on today.
Thanks, Daniel.
Now so we'll put the URL in for the podcast. Anything else you wanted to share in terms of anything you're up to, etc.? Like, that's amazing. I kind of think I maybe heard about that TV special and whatnot and all those sorts of things, but that's amazing that you did that. You've got the podcast or anything, and you got all these songs, you got all the songs, people can look them up. I'd love to, if you have anything else coming up or anything else you'd like to share with people that you got going on.
Thanks, Daniel. Well, I'm honored to be on the show. I want to first of all thank you for having me, and thank you for just being open to having me and just hearing my story and hearing what God's done in my life. And I really appreciate your heart, and it's fun to have these conversations. I'm glad we can do it, and I hope someone listening is encouraged. And you covered it really well. I'll say again, scottmacintyre.com, and it's ScottMacintyre.com. People can reach out to me there. And if you put, /podcast on there, it'll take you right to the podcast, or, scottmacintyre.com/enduring hope takes you to the TV special. You can find it one way or another. But yeah, I appreciate you doing that and just helping us help others continue to find hope. And it's been a really, really fun conversation, man.
Yeah, it's been awesome. I know you're up to a lot of things, and I believe you help raise money for things and whatnot too. You've been known to do that. And do you have anything coming up on that these days? Or
we've done a lot of that over the years, but we do have a ministry called Scott MacIntyre Ministries that I started with my wife a couple of years back. And so it's really cool because it takes me into a lot of schools now, and a lot of we try to get people back into church as well. But my favorite thing is just being with young people, and just kind of encouraging the next generation. And that's a big part of our focus, as well as the podcasts and the television stuff that we do. We're really just trying to meet people where they are, whether it's in, I was with about 100 fourth graders the other day, and just loved it. I mean, they were so excited, and it makes me excited when I see them excited, and just talking about life. And then with the TV special, we're able to really reach people that are feeling isolated and feeling vulnerable. So when you guys check it out, the Enduring Hope podcast or the TV special, share it with someone. Just share it with someone in your life that maybe needs that encouragement right now. And that's what we're here to do.
Awesome. Yeah, what a perfect time to have come out with that too. It's divinely timed, right? Like,
yeah, we all need hope.
right at that time when this whole thing hit. So
Yeah.
so check it out, everybody. Again, the links will be in the show notes, and we've given out the URL and everything. Check all that out. And Scott, I just want to again thank you for being on the show, being such a wonderfully wonderful being and human being and servant of God in the world, all that good stuff. And it's so amazing, and that you've been so blessed, and you've done so much with what God's given to you in your life. So thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you, Daniel. Hey, it's a pleasure, man. And I will be praying for you and just glad to know you, glad to be your friend.
Likewise.
Good luck with the show. Thank you, man.
Thanks. And for the rest of you, keep on tuning in. And as always, we'll keep on rocking it here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Till next time, everyone, lots of love. Goodbye for now. Listening to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.